Mute. I need to
Both
come off
either.
mute. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm off mute. How you doing, Damien?
I'm fine. I actually only tuned into this power rankings that we saw on the screen at number 5. Can you tell me
Okay.
who was like lower down
Yeah, I
from
can.
6 to
Yeah.
10?
We're at T minus 5 minutes, which means 5 minutes before officially the draw is announced. Although who knows where the US Open will be at and whether they will be on time. But in the meantime, Damien is curious about 6 to 10. Let me think about this. I know Maria Sakkari is at 9. That was a standout for me, as in like quite high. Number 7 was Vondrousova. Number 8, Jabeur. 6, Mukova. 10. Oh, Samsonova.
Oh, I mean, I guess I kind of get it because there's a significant drop off in quality, I think, after the top 8. Just like there's a significant drop off in quality after the top 5 to top 8. So, who else would you have at like 9? I don't think it would be Sakkari for me, but also I think putting whoever at number 9 and 10 is basically correct.
Yeah, true. I think you're right. I like the division. I would have said until about 3 weeks ago, there's a gap between the top 3.
Yeah.
And but Goff is just beginning to bridge that gap, and maybe Pegula a little bit, given her title in Canada. So yeah, fairly. I think the top 5 is pretty solid for me. 5 being Pegula, 4 Goff, 3 Rybakina, 2 Sabalenka, 1 Swiatek. I actually would probably right now will be tipping Sabalenka to win the title right now, but I could change in the next 3 or 4 days. I don't know. I certainly could
in
change
the next 3 or 4 minutes, right? Because you're going to see the draw.
Although I haven't done the maths in my head, but actually I think the men's draw might have a slightly bigger influence than the women's draw. I mean, with them kind of nicely placed, you could say Rybakina. Yeah, I guess Rybakina's placing. I put it in the title because Rybakina and Medvedev are kind of. I mean, it doesn't really matter about the top 2 seats on both sides, on the men and the women's side. But Rybakina and Medvedev are the first questions, other than, standout first rounds. If we get Djokovic against Andy Murray in the first round, that'll be a headline too.
Yeah, I think on the women's side, I usually don't expect this much consistency. Like, I don't really think that, if Swiatek and Sabalenka, and Rybakina again are in the same half, which happens every time this year. Obviously not at Wimbledon, but like 90% of the other tournaments. I wouldn't exactly have them as like just locks for the semifinal. And a semifinal like this is just so much less probable than a semifinal between Alcaraz Medvedev, Djokovic Medvedev. So yeah. That's partially the best of 3 format, partially Rybakina struggling with her health. So yeah, I don't think it's all that important. Medvedev, that could be key, especially if he lands in the Djokovic half. I think he's like one of the very few players in the draw that Djokovic is actually going to be anxious about playing. Hurkacz is in there probably as well. I don't know who else, like maybe some other serve bots, but it seems like most serve bots right now are struggling. Like Cressy is not yet in the main draw, of course. Who else is there? Opelka injured. Isner having his last event. Maybe, that's someone that Djokovic would not like to play. But of course, there are only like a few players in the draw where I think he would be actually, he could get in trouble against,
Who are the if I get the draw, by the way, I will immediately tell you. But who are the players either on the men's or the women's side outside the top 32, of course, the seeds, who, let's say, I think Djokovic and Alcaraz could probably deal with just about anyone, but I think a slightly out of form, rusty Medvedev, certainly someone like Stefanos Tsitsipas, who's not exactly torn up the record books in New York, unless those record books include losing or winning just one game in the first 2 sets. Who would those players be going, oh, I don't want to play X player in the first round? I mean, who's sort of ranked outside the top 32 who would be a danger?
Yeah, just looking at that, and currently the first unseeded player, like the highest ranked unseeded player, is Iżi Lehečka, That's already an
I was thinking
answer.
Lehechka. I wasn't quite sure whether he was seeded or not.
Yeah, me neither. That's why I had to check. Yeah, because he's like 33rd, 34th. And Berrettini, Murray. I mean, the next two guys on the list, literally. There's a couple of guys, I don't know, Popirin, Shelton, and etc., who just, if they have a great serving day, right? Anything is possible. But yeah,
Berrettini sticks out for me a bit actually.
Berrettini, Lehechka, Murray. That's a very strong set of contenders that
It is
for this
Berrettini
award.
most for some reason. I don't know
Berrettini
why.
most. Yeah, I get it. Hasn't his last event though ended like okay. That was the match with Australia Sim. I think I commented
Felix was
on
a
it.
disappointment, I guess, the result there. But I don't know. I just
Yeah.
think that Berrettini against Tsitsipas. I think
Yeah,
Berrettini can win that.
Tsitsipas, is a completely different story. I think.
Yeah, I'm
for
not talking about
Tsitsipas, we're
Alcaraz or
actually looking
Djokovic. I
at.
don't think. But
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but I was just mostly looking at like Alcaraz, Djokovic, yeah. Guys that they wouldn't want to play. But yeah, Tsitsipas, I think there's a lot of unseeded players in the draw where we potentially could see a tough match. Obviously, he doesn't have a good New York record. We kind of have to see like the heavier balls, how they impact play as well. Seems like in the qualifying where most players are kind of struggling to hit through the courts actually. So I don't know. Someone like Meligeni Alves is thriving, for example. I think this is something that wasn't really like predictable in the sense that we didn't know how the conditions would be. Even though he was probably one of the strongest players in his section anyway. So that's also maybe a factor. But yeah, it's gonna be hard to just guess that and estimate that before actually seeing like a few rounds of this event. And it's after 6 p.m. So is the draw out is the question.
I've got the US Open Twitter account on on alert. So as soon as they tweet something,
I see.
I can then I'll get a notification. But
I'll check on their
Jose
website.
Morgado might be ahead of them.
That's true. I actually might get it on my email, I think, but we'll see. I'll just put on everything right now. Men's singles, yeah, it's already out. Women's singles, it's already out as well on their website.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a quick look then. Let's get in amongst it.
I do not have it on my email though, so I don't have PDF versions.
It's okay. I'm just going on the website now.
Yeah, we have it on the website though.
Okay, I see it, I think.
Oh, there is a PDF version already on the website as well, so I guess that will be easier for you to show than the or maybe not. I mean, depending on what you want.
Ali, we'll have a look at the PDF. Is this it? No, this is the qualifying. I think women's qualifying. I've got the PDF for at the moment. Maybe just go on the homepage.
Just US Open tournament draws.
Yeah, I got draws. Men's qualifying draw. No. Round 3.
Where are you?
I'm on the US Open website, usopen.org.
Yeah. And then you have draws, and you have
draws,
women's singles, men's singles, women's qualifying, and men's qualifying.
I don't have those, not yet.
Just click draws. Don't click draws as a whole. Can you show me?
Yeah, I'll show you my screen. Screen.
Can you show me my screen? Maybe your website is somehow different.
Behind or yeah.
Ghosty, I'm assuming she meant a fairly low bounce.
This is round 4 qualifying.
Yeah. Just click draws, yeah.
Yeah.
Click this here and nothing is happening?
No. I have had a notification though from hang on, what's this? That's qualifying.
I mean, someone must have posted it, right? There's this account Tennis Draws that I see has already posted US Open main draw. Is it just men's? I think it's just men's though. Yeah, it's just men's that I have here on Twitter.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it here on US Open draw. So I've got Alcaraz against Koepfer.
Yep.
Among others, let's have a quick. It's about focusing as I can get. Greek sport Atafi.
Not the easiest.
Okay,
but that's fine.
Cam Norrie
against probably that's fine.
Chenko, Andy Murray, Corentin Moutet, Bublik, Dominic Thiem, Tsitsipas, Milos Raonic.
Wow, where are you? You kind of skipped from.
I'm just sort of
Because it's okay, but this screen, actually the left side is the top half, and then the
okay.
right side is the bottom half on this one.
Okay.
So
So
that's
in
pretty
Holger
important.
Rune has fallen in the bottom half, which I'm assuming is
Yes,
therefore
yes, yes,
Djokovic, and
yes.
therefore
Medvedev is
Medvedev
in
must be in
is
Alcaraz's half. Yes, he
yes.
is.
Attila Palash, no way. Oh no, no. That's gonna be a terrible match. That's gonna last like 80 minutes. I honestly don't understand how Attila Balash still has protected rankings, but
Yeah.
I mean it's been way over 12 months since he first used them. I think it was actually Ostrava 2022, so April. I think I even won. Yeah, I watched his first match after a comeback live, and like, it's the US Open now. How is he still using this?
An
And yeah.
all-American clash in Steve Johnson, Taylor Fritz, and the person. If you don't want to get injured, don't play Mackenzie McDonald this year because whoever he seems to play seems to end up getting injured. Felix Auger-Aliassime has that honor. Rublev Rusevori in a repeat of their match, of course, quite recently in Cincinnati, which was a bit of a blockbuster.
Yeah, 5 sets at the Australian Open too, right? Or
Oh,
not?
did they have
Like
five?
1 year?
Did they go
No,
five
no,
there?
that was no. Sorry, that was with Felix, not with Rublev.
It was
Yeah,
Rusevori. He played lost to recently, I think.
yeah, yeah. Yes. That's true. I was just thinking of another match, but it was with Felix, not with
Michael
Rublev.
Moe against Hachinov.
They played 4 sets at the Australian Open, not 5. Yeah. Mo Kachanov is actually very much an upset alert. I think instantly. And
Yeah.
same go like this is actually pretty decent for Hurkacz, it seems, but like, he needs to win a few matches. He's a machine for playing close matches basically this year with the serving stats, with the returning stats, the
In
discrepancy between them. So, but this
what?
is pretty cool for him, right? Rublev,
Yeah.
Medvedev, that's a very good half. But then again, he has never been past the second round in New York.
Okay, well, at least Rublev is not in Djokovic's half as well. He'll be pleased about that, although he's in Alcaraz's. So,
Yeah, and we are also pleased about that because their matches are pretty dire usually.
yeah, where? That's true. Where's Yannick Sinner? Oh, he's in the same half as Alcaraz.
Yes, in the quarters. They can play in the quarters.
Oh, really?
He
Again?
Yes.
Okay.
He looks like he should probably get there. I don't know. I mean Zverev is a threat. Is Dimitrov a threat? I don't know.
Where's Zverev, by the way?
No, it's Sinner's like section.
Okay, so
They
he's in
can
the
play
same
in round
half as
4.
Alcaraz.
Yeah, they can play in round 4. Sinner and Zverev.
Tommy Paul? Where's Tommy Paul? Just to see him as being the flying Alcaraz's ointment or not. Oh, he's on the same half
No,
as
no.
Djokovic.
Yeah, he's in the bottom half.
Casper Ruud is someone you want in your half.
By the way, Djokovic, the first 2 rounds, did you see this? Oh, Jesus. I mean, he's just going to lose 5 games each.
Yeah, cakewalk.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't really... I really think it's hard to find something easier in this draw. Like, a lot of qualifiers will be more dangerous than Miller, Zapata, Miralles, or Quinn. A lot of, like, most of them.
Let's see if the US Open...
And also Felix in the 4th round. Oh, maybe it's actually going to be Cerundolo. Maybe Cerundolo can be pretty tough. But
So, very quick take on some of the women's stuff. We've got... This is the potential quarterfinals with the 8 seeds all making it there, which I would highly doubt. Probably Garcia and Sakkari, I think, would be exceeding expectations if they were to make the quarters. The other 6, yeah, could happen. Pegula would be... Oh, that's a nice draw then for Pegula, I would suggest. Where is Swiatek and Rybakina, I think. So Pegula's seeded 3, okay. That's probably... okay, that's interesting. So I think Swiatek and Rybakina are indeed in the same half again.
Yeah, Pegula is like 300 points higher than Rybakina right now.
Okay.
Still not the case in the race, right? It's like Rybakina has a huge lead in the race, so by the end of the year, it's probably going to be reversed, unless Pegula keeps hitting some huge results. Obviously, she is still dropping Guadalajara. So.
Yeah, and so this is the men's projected quarters. Sort of course, I think players such as Casper Ruud maybe Andre Rublev, especially with that first round, and Tsitsipas as well. Oh, that's nice for Djokovic anyway.
Ofner Borges, that sounds familiar. Didn't they play like this year? I think so.
Sinner is probably the one in that sort of 5 to 8 group that I think could cause Alcaraz or even Djokovic a problem in New York. I don't think Sinner would beat Djokovic, but I think it would be the more interesting one compared to, say, Ruud, Tsitsipas, or Rublev. Medvedev, I guess, would be reasonably happy with that potential quarterfinal against Rublev. But of course, a lot of tennis to happen between now and then. Let's have a quick look at some other draw takes, if possible. Yeah, how's the qualifying going anyway? Any crazy results going on?
Crazy results going on today? Probably not. I mean, there's been like 5 matches that have been finished. You know, guys like Nardi losing to Tirante in the opening round. That was pretty rough. But otherwise, I think like the main favorites have pretty much continue. You know, are pretty much still in the tournament. You know, some is Goffin losing at this point and upset. You know, probably not, but he did, and then like pretty dramatic. Well, not dramatic actually, like in pretty terrible fashion. Yeah, I mean today obviously the big one is Anderson Mahac, but that's gonna be a fair bit later still from here.
What I just see, I just saw an interesting match. Oh, it's Fucsovics against Sebi Korda again. They just played yesterday in somewhere in the US, in Winston-Salem. Korda winning in straight sets, but it was pretty close. Manarino, Watanuki, Gasquet, Morajan. It's interesting. Where's Morajan ranked nowadays then in the world? He must be creeping up the rankings then if he's got a direct entry.
Playing Gasquet in the opening round.
Yeah.
Kind of a mystery how he'll do on hard courts here. He played Australian Open qualies, lost to Shang. It was a pretty weird match. Like he was just trying to finish all the points in free shots. Sometimes it was glorious and sometimes it was a disaster. But basically, Fabian Maroshan on any court. I mean, he kind of plays like this every time. But yeah, he just hasn't played like almost at all on outdoor hard courts in his career. He has like 90% matches in clay. And even if he wasn't playing on clay, it was like indoors. Well, probably similar amount of indoor and outdoor hardcourt matches.
Can Raonic beat Tsitsipas?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, this is very, very much a problem opponent, I think, for Steph. You know, just big serve, always an issue for him. If Raonic has just a random peak day, which wouldn't really be that random, I think it's just so much easier for a guy like this to play one amazing match than I don't know, play 5 of them in a row. We saw that in Toronto, for example, right?
Yeah,
and he just had an absolute nightmare against McDonald's. So yeah, I think this is very much an upset alert. You know, Tsitsipas is still gonna be the betting favorite. But is that actually right? I don't know. Have they played? I think they played, right? Yeah, 2020. 2020 twice, and Raonic won both without dropping a set. Obviously, it was a bit of a different situation. You know, he had this resurgence, right? Raonic in 2020, I think too. Maybe making the finals in Cincy. So it wasn't exactly the same like it is right now. He was certainly in a much better spot. But yeah, I think this is very much one of the best matches of the round and something that everyone will be watching on Tuesday or Monday.
Okay. Any other exciting things? Kokinak is up against a qualifier. Greek Sport, Art of Feast. Does that get your blood pumping?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, it's a bit of a shame that they are playing each other, I think. Greek Sport, I think, lost to Purcell yesterday, right, in Winston-Salem. So not exactly going that strong since his Washington final, but obviously he's had some amazing results this year. And yeah, Fuse was actually really good, I thought, in Winston-Salem. So definitely one of the matches that I will watch.
Who did Feast lose to in Winston-Salem?
Nakashima in 3.
Wawrinka against Nishioka.
Oh,
What year could that be? What year could that be potentially?
They played in Indian Wells, right? Like a billion years ago. I think when Nishioka had that huge run and was like his first big event, and then he tore his ACL. I think it was like one of the last matches that he played before that. Yeah, Wawrinka beat him 7-6 in the third, Indian Wells 2017, fourth round. Yeah, I remember that because it was like this huge run from Nishioka. He got deep into the top 100 and then had a long injury. That obviously since then he has actually overperformed, like exceeded the previous results that he had.
Before the draw, who
Mhm.
were you tipping to win the US Open on the men's side?
Alcaraz or Djokovic. That's an answer that you're gonna get from me. Sorry, I'm not gonna tell you which one
You can't pick between
before
the
the
two?
draw. I can tell you what I think after the draw.
Yeah, that's good because that's what I want to know.
Yeah, Djokovic's chances have probably increased.
Yeah.
Did they increase significantly? Kinda, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
just looking at looking at his quarter, that seeds next to him, Jerez, Cerundolo, Auger-Aliassime, Fritz, Musetti, Tsitsipas. Who's beating him out of these guys? Rune getting to the semis at this stage, like in his physical state, I don't know if it's very likely. So then in the semis, let's say he plays, honestly, even Casper Ruud with this draw. But Casper Ruud can probably lose to a lot of players here. Fucsovics Korda, by the way, what a nasty first round matchup, and Wolfgang as well. But yeah, just looking at his half, I kind of don't know who beats him potentially. Someone like Bublik, Tiafoe, I don't think they do it. I think they end up they
Tiafoe.
they basically would come onto the court. They would start striking the ball incredibly hard. Djokovic would parry it without issues, and then they would at some point just break down. That's how I see these two
Davidic
matches.
Fekino if fit, and I know he's had some back
Not on
issues
hard
recently.
courts, probably. I think this could be a more troubling matchup for Novak on clay. So yeah, and in Alcaraz's
Nelly
half,
Korda.
you can kind of see it with a few guys. I think Alcaraz is also a bit more likely to just struggle against someone who comes out and tries to blow him off the court. I don't know if there are really any players here like Lloyd Harris any players like that here. Like Lloyd Harris probably isn't going to do it. But yeah, maybe someone like Zverev or Sinner. Basically, that's the quarters. Like that's pretty tough. And yeah, then Medvedev. I know it hasn't been a great matchup for the Russian, but it's still a possibility that he would push him. But yeah, I think Djokovic's chances have increased for sure. Like the first 2 rounds, he's just not losing, and Alcaraz, who knows, he might drop sets to Kepfer, he might drop a set to Haris Ilpeia. Why not? He just almost lost to Jordan Thompson in Cincinnati, right? He can play him in the third round here.
Yeah, I was going to say, who is the third round probable
Dan
for?
Evans, Daniel Galan, great run at last year's US Open, of course, beating Tsitsipas, Thompson, or Botic van de Zandschulp, great run at US Open 2021, making the quarterfinals, but probably not going to repeat that.
No. Did he lose to Medvedev?
Botic in the quarters, yes. Pretty good match actually for all the tennis that he already had in his legs.
But Botic is really on a horrible run, I think, since
Yep.
Getting to that final and blowing it against Holger Rune.
Exactly. Since that massive choke in Munich, he is he won one match at Wimbledon in 5 sets against Zhang, and that's it.
So he's only won one match since then. Bloody, my
yeah,
me.
But since Wimbledon, he only played one as well, and it was against Omni Kumar this week in Winston-Salem, and he lost it. So
yeah. So it could be McDonald then.
McDonald.
Jordan Thompson. Sorry, Jordan Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson, Van de Zandschulp, Galan, Evans.
Yeah,
that's the third round for him. Yeah.
Evans. I mean, yeah, maybe.
Like
maybe.
you could see him struggle against a lot of these guys. Like the best of 5 format probably will save him, and his clutchness when behind. But like you could see him just dropping energy, dropping sets, right? Djokovic, the first 2 rounds, any set that he loses is already quite an upset. So that's also helpful. Maybe it's not gonna matter. Last year Alcaraz won the U.S. Open playing how many hours? 24 hours on the court or something like that.
Where's Jerry? Elena is
Something sick.
asking in the chat.
Let's
In
find
Alcaraz's
him.
half. I'm looking for
Let's
him.
find him. Yes,
Jerry, where are you?
23rd seed playing Luka Van Asch, then Albert Ramos Vinolas or Alex Michelsen. Actually, Alex Michelsen, by the way, he plays Ramos Vinolas and then Jari or Van Asch. That's a really good draw too. Could very well make the third round.
For those of you wanting to get our thoughts, there we go. Yeah. For those, and Borna Coric against Sebastian Baez. Coric winning in Winston-Salem yesterday. Hachanov has really not played a lot of tennis recently, which probably suggests he won't get to the semi-finals like he did last year. Obviously, defending all those points. John Isner's last ever match could potentially be against Diaz Acosta, or it could even be against maybe Hachanov or Mo in the second round. I think that'd be interesting if it's against Michael Mo in particular. Hurkacz Husler, I think you touched on that earlier. Umber Berrettini was that unseeded player that I probably would have suggested will be the one to avoid. Gael Monfils up against the qualifier, so that'll be interesting to see. Of course, in the US Open, a bit like Australia, they do the draw before the qualifiers are done, which I find a bit of a pity from a viewing point of view. I always think it's a bit more interesting once the qualifiers.
Yeah, but the qualifiers will end like tomorrow at about let's guess midnight our time, so something like this.
By Wimbledon, they do the draw though in good time, as in like they do it after the qualifiers.
Yeah, but they end the qualifiers on Thursday, and also since it's the European time zone, a lot earlier than than the US Open.
Okay, and so one or two people might be going, what about the women's stuff? And we've touched on it, and I want to do want to elaborate a bit more, but I know Nick is going to join us at some point to maybe share some thoughts on the women's draw as well, hopefully in about 15, 20 minutes before we wrap up. Just anything else on the men's side? I mean, we can switch the women because actually I kind of think the key questions I think from any draw are, do they have a greater or worse chance? That's why I asked you that Alcaraz question. I would agree with you. I would say that Djokovic has a slightly better chance of winning the tournament than he did before the draw. And I would say Alcaraz has a slightly weaker chance, a slightly less chance. Not a lot in it. But I do think that there has been a slight shift, maybe by 1 or 2% each way. What about somebody like Medvedev? Have his chances increased, decreased, or stay the same?
It's tough to say. Like I definitely like his early draw. Balázs is a must win. Like this is not a match. Purcell, O'Connell, unique styles. You could kind of see him struggle maybe against Purcell. But then again, like if you look at it as a whole, I know he's just lost to Daminor. He has a pretty poor matchup with Hurkacz, but they need to get there first. He loves playing Rublev. Like it is a draw that makes me think he probably will make the semis, or that's basically it.
What's his head-to-head like against Hurkacz?
2-3 would be off the top of my head. I have to check that.
I would say Hurkacz at 17 seed, of course, not age. He's probably somebody in your section as a potential fourth round or quarterfinal that I probably wouldn't.
2-3 is right. Yeah.
So in favor of Hurkacz?
Yes.
And are they mostly hard, or where are they?
Twice on grass, 3 times on hard. Hurkacz won both times on grass. On hard courts, it's 2-1 for Medvedev. But all of their matches were super close. Like there was that steal from Canada when they played at the ATP finals. It was also 3 sets. Basically, the only blowout was Halle, of course, the final.
So looking at this right now, actually, I might just go slightly weaker on Daniil Medvedev. I think he probably would have preferred to be in Djokovic's half than Alcaraz. bearing in mind the head-to-head there, especially recently, which is bizarre to suggest you'd rather play the 23-time Grand Slam winner, but we know how it ends up normally against Alcaraz, at least this year anyway. Plus, I think Hurkacz is a tricky one in your quarter. Rublev should be okay. That head-to-head, barring I think a defeat in what was I think the fake Cincinnati tournament that they held in New York a few years ago, a couple of years ago during the pandemic. So actually, I think I'm going to go slightly. This has not been a brilliant draw for Daniel Medvedev, that's for sure.
Yeah, I just think we cannot really count on Hurkacz being in the quarters in the first place.
Agree.
It's a draw where he has a fantastic chance to do it. Then again, never been past the second round in New York, and just the fact that any match of his is basically super close. Even when he has a run in Cincy, he had to beat Kokinakis, not even breaking serve right in the first set tie break. Basically, anytime there's a deep run from Hurkacz, at the beginning of it, there are a couple of tight matches that could have gone the other way, and it's just a matter of play style, just a matter of how poor he's returning and also how well he's serving at the same time. And I just don't think I can count on it, but the draw is there for him. Like it really could easily be a Hurkacz quarterfinal or a semifinal. Rublev, I don't think is a tough opponent for him, and I don't think Medvedev is like stylistically that tough for him either. So the chance is there.
I also think for Alcaraz, you probably don't want Hurkacz on your half as well. If you can pick, you don't want you don't want Berrettini.
I think no one really wants to play him in general, right? Like who would want Hurkacz in their section? Like Tsitsipas, definitely not. Despite the 8-3 head-to-head, right?
So yeah, I think and probably Zverev as well would be probably slightly disappointed to be in the same quarter as Alcaraz.
And forefront with Sinner.
And forefront
Zverev did not get a good draw, but that's kind of what that's the risk of being a 12th seed, right?
That's right.
He is on track though to potentially change that by the end of the year and enter the ATP finals as
of course, because he's not getting any player again. At all. Because he was injured for the whole of the
He's actually 8th in the ATP race now.
Yeah. So probably, therefore, I'm going to flip to the other side of the men's draw and pick out some players that have had, that have slightly better chances of winning the US Open, or at least going far, such as Novak Djokovic. Sorry, what?
No, I just wanted to say Novak.
Such as Novak. But I just wonder if this, given the fact that this should, if I do my maths correctly, it should work out about 50-50, as in, like, if I'm suggesting one player's up, that should suggest someone else is down. And I'm guessing, therefore, perhaps on the other side of the draw. I mean, Casper Ruud. I agree that I don't think Casper Ruud is on form getting to a quarter or semi-final of a Grand Slam, but he's had a few good draws in the last 18 months, I would suggest. I think the draw in New York wasn't too bad. He did really well to beat Berrettini, but when you're playing Karen Khachanov in a semi-final of a Grand Slam, not bad. French Open, we all know that 2022 was probably the most lopsided draw I've seen in years, certainly when it comes to the top 8 anyway. Because basically all the best 4 were in the top half and all the worst 4 in the bottom half. And Casper Ruud happened to be in that group. And I would suggest again, it could be worse. Bearing in mind he's the 5th seed, he could be meeting an Alcaraz or a Djokovic in the quarterfinals, and he's not.
Yeah, and also the thing, like last year, I remember Zhang and Casper Ruud were supposed to meet in round 2. And I was screaming upset alert. Zhang had 7 match points to beat Tim van Rijthoven, so they never actually played. But this year he's just not in that sort of form. But I mean, Ruud, it's a decent draw, but like he does not fuel me. He just doesn't give it to me right now. That the belief that he's gonna beat whoever really. So I just don't feel confident that he's gonna make the quarters or something. But it's not a bad draw for him, no.
No. Exactly. But then I probably felt the same for him going into the French the last 2 years as well. I mean, I don't think his form was excellent this year. I know he won in Estoril, but that was, I think, it for the clay court season. And last year, his clay court season was not that great until the French. It was only the French that it caught fire. But again, Tsitsipas from memory. I don't think he won a clay court tournament until getting to the final French. Anyway, so yes, a few winners here. I would suggest maybe Tiafoe as well. Would be quite happy with this draw. Sebi Korda's first round. Oh, actually, Sebi Korda's. Hang on, Sebi. Oh, okay, I'm looking at the wrong bit. So yeah, so Sebi Korda would be on target to meet potentially Casper in the third round. So maybe Casper's early rounds are a bit tricky. I mean, who knows who he'll end up playing as a qualifier? And JJ Wolf or Zhang, I think, could be interesting in the next round. And then Sebi Korda in the third round. That's a difficult early part of the tournament. But if he does come through that unscathed, then things might be looking up. But yeah, and I would suggest Tiafoe as well. Probably not too bad. What we got? Tien followed by Erfner or Borges. I would expect him to get to the third round at the very least.
Also, what were we talking about? I was supposed to talk about Ghosty's question about trading wildcards. This is usually called reciprocal wildcards. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the French and the US, for example.
Yeah. You can trade wildcards for everything anywhere because there's basically no rule. So if the tournament organizer decides to give me a wildcard, for example, I would be available. And yeah, like that's basically how it works. So the trading is not restricted by anything other than the organizers wanting that, and they want their players like to have another shot at making the USO. Yeah, reciprocal. They want the other player, their players, to like have another shot at making the French or the Australian Open, and yeah, that's how they do it. Sometimes even like agencies trade wildcards. They Ulysses and Darwin's brother Daily Blanche is traveling Europe recently on like challenger wildcards, and apparently it's some agency getting this for them, and then for example because he got it in Poznan and in Kozerki. We are supposed to get something out of that deal later. So basically, there's no rules whatsoever.
Sounds a bit dark to me.
Sounds a bit what?
Sounds a bit dark. I mean, a bit. I could use a C word as well, and I'm not talking about that.
That's the system, and like it has its merits and it has its downfalls for sure. Like definitely, it's not clear what you have to do to get a wild card. It's not really, corruption can be involved for sure.
That's the C word.
Like in Daily Blanche's case, like apparently there's no money on the table, which is why it's not corruption because they're trading something, right? And that's not corrupt. That's not against the rules. Money for wildcards theoretically is, but it's like, very often it happens that players are buying wildcards. Well, usually at lower tier events. And basically, I think the main merit of this is just the stories that we sometimes get out of this, right? Goran Ivanisevic winning Wimbledon as a wildcard. I don't know, Mark Edmondson winning the Australian Open in 1976. That's he wasn't a wild card, but like he was a player who wouldn't usually be able to get into draws, right? And without wild cards, you're not gonna get this sort of things. And
I mean, I'm not anti wild cards necessarily, but I do think we could probably make it a little bit more of a transparent process. And I think what I thought Ghosty was sort of hinting at as well would be like in the US, we'll give a French wild card. So therefore in Paris, you can give an American a wild card. That to me is that's not giving Goran Ivanisevic, a former Wimbledon finalist and someone who's been knocking at the door to win a Grand Slam through large parts of his career, a wild card. I think that's probably somewhere I would draw the line personally. Giving Verdasco a wild card in Madrid because it's probably his last tournament, or someone like that. Okay, I'm okay with that. So I would just do probably a few less wild cards. I'd probably bring the number down. What's it? How many wild cards per slam at the moment? Is it 8?
8, yes.
Yeah. I'd be tempted to bring that
So
down
at the US Open, they basically do 6 for the American players. Well, it doesn't have to be American players, right? Actually, doesn't Nishikori have one or someone? Who has one outside of American players? There's one name, I'm sure, right? Basically they just have 6 wildcards that the US Open organizers are handing out, and then they also have 1 Aussie and 1 French. So they kind of limit their pool. But
I mean, to be honest with you, why do we have the 4 Grand Slams in these 4 countries? Well, yeah. I mean, I could get. There's a historical. I mean, but there's a wealth. There's a
and the tradition is part of like the recognition of tennis as well. Like people know that there's something like 4 slams, even if they don't follow tennis. Like maybe not everyone, but like if you actually started moving them around too much, it kind of loses that sort of grandiose feeling. And I don't think it would be beneficial to
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying it's not a coincidence the 4 countries that they are in, and I don't think it's a coincidence that those are tennis loving countries. There's a cause and effect behind it all. Anyway, that's probably for another debate for another day. We're certainly here just to basically have a look at the draw. So yeah, I think basically lots of players. Dominic Thiem, by the way, against Bublik. Can Thiem win that?
No.
Not play. Not play.
No, you can always beat Bublik if he just has an off day, right? But Thiem also withdrew from Winston-Salem at like the last possible minute. He was supposed to play Rinderknech actually again because they played in Kitzbühel. But I don't really think. Good question from Sean. Who is eligible for wildcards? How low in the rankings do they go? There's no ranking criteria. Like it can be anyone. Literally, I could get a wild card to the US Open, and no one could be no one could say a word. If the organizers want me to get a wild card to the US Open, I would get it. You don't. I'm not sure if like at the ATP and Challenger level, you need you even need the app, because usually to sign up for the events, you actually have to like pay some. I can't remember what the fee is, but you have to pay some fee for the app. I think if you get a wild card, you don't even need that, and you definitely don't need to have any points, anything whatsoever. There's no criteria, absolutely zero rules.
Before we switch to the women, because Nick is here, which is perfect timing because we are sort of getting towards the bottom here of the men's. We've already touched on the bottom
of the barrel.
Yeah,
I will be here
touched on both sides of the draw in a broad sense, but now we're doing a deep dive on the men's side, and I thought I would save the women for your rival. No, our rival, Nick. But I'm just having a quick look here. Felix could beat McDonald.
I don't know. I think Felix is not in great form. McDonald has a habit of beating players who may be slightly off colour for one reason or another.
Yeah.
I think if you look at seeding, I would call that one an upset alert. But is Felix losing it early an upset anymore?
Oh, what about Carballes Baena against Holger Rune?
That could be a tough one for Rune. I did see that go, I could see Carballes Baena take a set, but I think Rune should win that one. He's going to have a tough second round, though, because if Rune gets through that, he's got Karatsev or Lehechka. Probably Lehechka. That's going to be a nasty one, I think, if you're a Rune fan.
David Fokina against Marcos Giron, Ivashka Sawundlo. Just coming back to this a second, there was something I wanted to ask Damien.
He's out the room. Can I just make a comment about this half of the draw?
Yeah, sure.
If you're an American fan, it is stacked. If you just purely on their top Americans, Fritz, Paul, Shelton, Eubanks, and Tiafoe are all in this half of the draw. Like that's going to be stacked from a scheduling and TV perspective from like the home fans.
So if, and I'm guessing now, but probably there's a 60 or 70% chance this half will be on Tuesday. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday next week will be lots of Americans potentially playing. I think the question I had, let me have a quick look at this draw again a bit more closely. It's a bit distant for me. Just a second. So I can have a quick look at the draw again. I had a question to ask about this, but Holger Rune actually was more of a point actually. He's still got, every tournament we go into at the moment with Holger, there does seem to be some kind of physical concern, either a longevity, I think in the first half of this year, or in the second half there's been a few niggling injuries, such as a back injury, I think quite recently in Cincinnati, where I think he retired against someone. So there's that. Raonic is definitely a potential upset for Tsitsipas. Another early exit in New York is not beyond the realms of possibility, particularly as he might have to play Popper in the second round anyway. Eubanks you just touched on as well. Any final thoughts on this half of the draw? Damien, is that you back?
Yes.
Any final thoughts on this half of the draw? Holger Rune, for example, any other?
I think when it comes to the men's, we really covered it all, basically. So I think we can go over to the women's. So perfect timing from Nick, indeed.
Indeed. Nick, so what are your first cold thoughts on the women's side?
Yeah, I think it's fairly spread out. I think Goff was the wild card element in that probably none of the top 4 seeds wanted them in her quarter, and ended up being Iga.
Okay.
Yeah, so Iga has got Goff as her potential quarterfinal opponent. That's going to be an interesting rematch, I think. I'm not entirely sure which way that one would go. I think both Swiatek and Sabalenka have both got fairly straightforward runs to the quarterfinals. I don't see anyone in there who could challenge. Definitely not Swiatek. Maybe Sabalenka could have some trouble if she runs to Jonna Vekic, but that's the only name I'm seeing in there that's like, I think who could maybe stop against the quarters. So that's off the top of my head. Rybakina, considering, she's got Kostyuk in the opening round, that could be an interesting one to watch. But again, I think she's going to make. I think I can't see anyone majorly troubling her before the quarters. Pegula as well. So it's basically who are the other quarterfinalists going to be. I've had you on in the background whilst I've been finishing work, and I think you're right in saying I don't think Sakkari or Garcia are making the quarters. To be honest, I think I've got an idea who might be instead. But yeah, I think it's all fairly spread out. To be honest, in terms of the top, I'm fairly confident most of the top names are going to be in the quarterfinals and setting up for a very exciting kind of conclusion. But there's enough interesting matches in the opening rounds that scattered across. I think probably the one that's going to get the most attention, the ones that are going to get the most attention for me are Sloane Stephens against Beatrice Haddad-Maia. That's a cool first round match. We've got Camilla George against Jessica Pegula in round 1. That's not ideal for Pegula starting, but it depends on which Georgie shows up. And then the big one, I think, for most tennis fans, Badosa against Venus. Paula Badosa against Venus Williams in the opening round. Two probably slightly off par, but top players.
Yeah, I think I slightly disagree. Not as a big disagreement, Nick, but I think I slightly disagree in terms of the word balance. But maybe I need to look at the second half of the draw, and if I come to the same conclusions, then I'm going to go, oh, okay. If I'm saying this is a tough half and the other half is a tough half, then something has to give, and therefore it probably is balanced. But my raw, or not quite raw, probably my second glance at this draw actually says to me that this half, the eager half, if you like, is the slightly harder half, maybe even a bit more than that. I mean, first of all, the first question is, if you're eager, number 3 seed Jessica Pegula, number 4 seed Rybakina.
Yeah.
Despite her recent defeat to Pegula, I would still, and despite the issues that you highlighted in your power rankings, I would still say, you know what, give me Pegula of those two. Personally, just because of the Rybakina rivalry as well. So that's the first thing. Second,
but do you count on Rybakina making the semis?
No, I don't. But then can you count on Pegula make the semis?
Yeah, like she makes quarters constantly.
Yeah.
At one point she will make the semis. Like I think Pegula has a much better chance than Rybakina making the semis here. She has been playing, she has been healthy, she has been super consistent. Rybakina has not, and especially looking at the early draws, Rybakina playing Kostyuk in round 1. Like, I don't even know if she's winning this. So
I mean, I'm also going to point this out is that, okay, so my prediction would be if Rybakina got to the quarters, I think she'd probably be playing Mukova. which would be an interesting one there. Whereas Pegula, I think the biggest threat to her in her quarter is Vondrousova, and that'd be a 4th round match. So it'd be potentially a rematch from Wimbledon. So I think they've both got one player who
That's
could
a quarter,
really trouble them.
isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. It would be a quarter final.
Quarterfinal? Hang on.
Yeah.
I've miscounted, I think, somewhere.
Yep.
I mean, so
quarterfinal. Yeah.
her
rematch of
Iga's
Wimbledon.
quarterfinal, by the way, on ranking at least, would be
The toughest, yeah.
Coco Gauff. The other seeds, who seeded 5?
Jabeur.
No, the Jabeur's 5. Okay, so I would rather have Jabeur than Gauff. Who's 7?
7
Garcia.
is
Garcia.
Garcia.
I'd
and
rather
8
have
is Sakkari.
Garcia than Gauff, and I'd also go for Sakkari over Gauff as well. So
Of course,
of those 4, she's got the worst possible quarterfinal.
If you're saying, if you're right, if you're saying that, if you're looking kind of right at the deeper end of the draw, rather than sort of the initial part, which is what I'm looking at,
okay,
then I'd agree. Iga's got the tougher draw out of any of the top 4 seeds because she's got Gauff, and if you look at out of her and Sabalenka, who she could possibly face, much tougher when you get to the second week compared to Sabalenka. I would agree with you there. But if we look at sort of progress and sort of through the early rounds, I'd still trust them both to kind of get there, and I trust Gauff to get there as well. And then I think the quarterfinals is when the fireworks are really going to kick off.
Sure. Damien, on this half of the draw, at least, are there any first round matches that catch your eye?
Let me see. Basically, like the first few rounds for Świątek are pointless. I think they should be, at least. They should be. If they aren't,
you get straight into the 4th round, I'll take that.
Yeah, if they aren't, then that means something is still not okay with.
Is Ostapenko a potential 3rd round?
Timing, 4th round. That's obviously not pushover or in anything like that. Well, we'll see who Wozniacki and Brady play. Like, these could be potentially great first rounds.
Andreeva, that'd be quarterfinal.
Andreeva playing a qualifier, but 2nd round, by the way, Mira Andreeva playing Gauff
again.
I think Gauff would probably beat her again this time. She definitely gives me a lot of confident vibes at the moment. Also, Andreeva is like 6-3. Roland Garros 3rd round. Also, Andreeva is like 3-6, love 3 down against Stevens in Cleveland, and it's her first event in a while. And there's actually a question about Coco from Sean. Do you guys think, by the way, he's our newest member, right?
I saw that. Thank you, Sean.
Yes, thank you, Sean. Do you guys think Gauff has turned a corner, or was the last tournament an anomaly? Kind of have to wait and see, but I actually think that there is a Grand Slam final, a Grand Slam semi-final coming for her. Maybe not here. I don't know if it's going to be here, but like in the near future. Give her, I don't know, 5 slams. Of course, she's already had one, but...
but a bit more of a real one. I don't want to take anything away from
that. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
What I mean. And also one where it could be a fight, a 50-50 or 60-40. So, I think my gut conclusion, I don't know how you feel about this, Nick, to that question, is that there has been a step forward this summer from Coco.
I completely agree. That forehand looks like it's far more potent than I think I've ever seen it. And it wasn't just Cincinnati. Don't forget, she won Washington as well. Completely demolished that draw. Frankly, the only thing really stopping her in Montreal was Pegula having a very, very good week. And she lost to Pegula in a very, very tight 3-set match. I'm fairly confident that Gauff has turned a corner. That's where I'm going to go with that one. Just on Damien's point about potential threats to Iga before the quarterfinals, I think we need to put Ostapenko on upset alert because she's got Jasmine Paolini in round 1, and Paolini is very, very good form right now.
Yeah, Ostapenko is also on upset alert anytime she plays, basically, and that goes for like both her opponents and her.
That is true.
Yeah, so but Paolini, of course, very good run, and I'm glad because I think people have been underrating her a bit for years, like especially the power that she gets on the forehand. I don't think it's really mentioned. She isn't Elisabetta Cocciaretto or Lucia Bronzetti. Let me say that.
Okay, I mean, Sakkari maybe could feel okay about a third round, fourth round, which right now might even be progress for her at Grand Slams. Bearing in mind, I don't think she's got to a fourth round at any of the previous 3 slams this year. I know she
Ghosty is
went out.
also saying, by the way, that Coco's serve hasn't progressed.
But Coco
it's
had a good serve
top
anyway.
5. Yeah, like it's a top 5 serve on the WTA. I mean, first serve, maybe the second.
Yeah.
Second
It's
serve,
okay.
yeah. But
Yeah, but first serve it's like top 5 on the WTA, especially in terms of row pace. So yeah, I don't think it really needs to improve.
Okay, we're probably going to come to Ons about now, actually, because I didn't realize that she's got Camila Osorio in the first round.
I'd like to answer Elena's question, actually.
Yeah, sure.
The answer is like, that was one of the things that when I was looking through the draw before coming on, yeah, that stood out to me is I think Ons has got the toughest draw out of the top 8 in terms of the early rounds. I don't think she's going to be happy with this at all because she's got Osorio in round 1. That's going to be tough. She's probably got Linda Noskova in round 2. Round 3, potentially Marie Bushkova, who's having a very good few weeks. And then round 4 could be Jean Chinwen or Barbora Krejcikova. All that to then play Arina Sabalenka in the quarters. That's going to be a mighty slog for Ons.
Yeah,
I think she's got the toughest draw at the top 8.
Yeah, the gut feeling is that Jabber will not make the quarters from me. Yeah, it is pretty tough, and like I just don't believe that we're gonna get a tournament like this, because theoretically, if you just start looking at this draw, it could be Świątek Goff in the quarters, Rybakina, let's say Muchova, right? Let's say Vondroushova against Pegula, and then Jabber against Sabalenka. Like it all seems fairly possible, but I just don't believe it. I mean, something has to happen. Like it just can't be just the top 8 power rankings players, right? Because I agree. I mean, it is my top 8 too, and I think it's everyone's top 8 in a way. So yeah, and definitely, by the way, Nurlan will be delighted to hear the Bushkova mention, right? Because he has been attempting to get us talking about her for the past week or so. So finally, he got there.
Yeah. Sabalenka, not bad first 2 rounds. And then
Definitely
is that
not.
Pliskova potential third round? Did she play Pliskova in the quarters last year? I always get Pliskova and Kvitova muddled up. Who did she play in the quarters at the US Open last year? Was it Pliskova?
Look it up.
Who?
Sabalenka.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It was. I was at the match. I was at the
Did you
match.
fall asleep again, John?
No, I didn't. It was a lunchtime match, actually. It was quite early.
So what's the slam you have not slept yet at?
I think it's Wimbledon.
Wimbledon, okay.
Have you not had a lunchtime siesta, John?
I've had an after lunch one, definitely. And in fact, I almost say one a day, but I shouldn't really say that live on air because I was supposed to be working. But
yeah, it was Pliskova. You are correct.
Pliskova, yeah, exactly. Quarterfinal, very comfortable though for Sabalenka, and she showed signs that day that she was possibly going to go all the way, but of course, Ego ended up stopping her, despite the fact, of course, Sabalenka was up a set or was up a break in the third set. Yeah, so I think Sabalenka. That third round, even if it might not even happen against Pliskova, but that's not too bad for her. And then fourth round, Krejcikova, Qinwen Zheng. Yeah, no guarantees that either of those will get to the fourth round. Kasatkina would be actually, yeah, Kasatkina, is that fourth round or quarterfinal?
Yeah, it would be Kasatkina or Vekic in the fourth round.
Kasatkina or Vekic, is that right? Yeah, Kasatkina, Vekic in the fourth round. Qinwen Zheng would be a potential quarterfinal, but that's a long way for Qinwen Zheng to go. Okay. Any other thoughts on this half of the draw, Nick?
On the second half, not massively. I think we've kind of covered all the kind of the main stories. Obviously, from a British perspective, this is going to be the draw where the interest is going to be because we've got Bolter and Burridge in there, but it depends if Harriet Dart can qualify. I don't have a lot of faith in Miyazaki getting through qualifying. Yeah, I think the only other, I'm just having a look at it. Yeah, I think I've got an idea of how I think the draw is going to progress. I'd say, yeah, highlight matches in terms of first round for me are going to be Badosa versus Venus Williams, Georgie versus Pegula, and I'm going to throw out Alexandrova versus Fernandez. That could be quite a fun one as an opener. But yeah, that's
and
my
also, I think Kostuk Rybakina as well would be
top. That's top half.
Okay, sorry, yeah. But I'm just talking about all together. But yeah, okay, fair enough. Garcia, I saw potential fourth round against Vondrousova again with both of those players, but probably even more so with Garcia right now. I think there has to be a lot of doubt whether they'll get
So
to the fourth.
Tauson Potapova in the third round for Garcia, and like Tauson Potapova, by the way, that could be my pick for like the best round one match.
That could be fun.
On the men's side, is there a first round? Because I think we've sort of done broader thoughts on the men. Is there a first round? I think Tsitsipas Raonic from memory is
Bublik team.
Bublik team, yeah, that's certainly a.
I think Tsitsipas Raonic will be more competitive though.
I'm going to throw like two kind of tennis like nerd matches in terms of like maybe not going to be headlines, but like I actually think you could get a good quality battle. Ugo Humbert versus Matteo Berrettini. That could be quite good. And also throw out Aslan Karatsev against Hiri Lehechka.
That's a hipster's choice. That's not that's a hipster's choice. That is Lehechka.
That's the kind of match I would expect to see would have seen at a challenger last year, right?
That's sort of when you start.
Karatsev probably in like 2020 lasts, but yeah, definitely.
When you're talking to football fans and you talk about Champions League and someone says, "Oh, I really can't wait for Legia Warsaw against Shakhtar Donetsk," it's like, this is a football hipster here. Definitely, yeah. All right, cool. Listen, I think we should wrap up now anyway in the next couple of minutes. Who's winning the US Open women's, Damien? Because you're sort of non-committal on the men.
And I think I'm also going to be non-committal here. 5 main favorites. I think Rybakina is 5th for me right now. 4th would be Pegula. And then you've got the top 3 Gauff, Sabalenka, Świątek. Let's go crazy and say Coco Gauff. I don't know. Why not? I think these 3 are like pretty similar for me. Obviously, Sabalenka kind of gets a boost because, well, Świątek and Gauff are in the same quarter. So, well, let's say, no, I don't know. One of these 3. That's all I'm gonna say.
Nick, I mean, you don't have to necessarily follow your power ranking, although I know how that panned out.
No, I don't have to follow the power ranking, but I'm looking at the draw and thinking about how it could go. Okay, I think the result of the US Open is going to hinge on that Świątek Gauff quarterfinal, like whoever ends up winning it. Not necessarily saying whoever wins that match is going to win the title, but I think it's going to massively affect who does win it. I think if I'm thinking how things are going to play out, Świątek doesn't tend to lose to the same opponent twice in a row, but it's going to be a tough one. And I think that would be the kind of match that's going to wake Iga up. And so I am going to say I think Iga Świątek is going to win the US Open.
I'm going Sabalenka.
Trifecta is completed.
Yeah.
Let's face it, this is how open the US Open draw is, that we've got 3 different answers. If we got 2 other guys on, we probably get another 2 different answers, and no one will be majorly arguing with each other because
is it open if there are just 3 main contenders and then 2 main contenders on the other half? Like, is it very open? I think we've had slams that were a lot more open than
maybe, Damien, but I think when we look at the men with 2 and they are 95%. I mean, even if you got it right, you could get somebody on the show right now who comes on and tells us that Frances Tiafoe is going to win the US Open, and that's fine, okay? But they would probably be speaking with their heart. And if they end up getting proven right, it still wouldn't make sense.
They actually weren't right. Like they're just wrong.
They're just really, keen for it to happen. And that's fine.
They got some lucky.
It's not, exactly. It's not something that you could bring to the table with a huge amount of evidence for. On the women's side, there's at least 3, 4 probably you could bring to the table, and it's very difficult to argue against it. You go, you know what? I see where you're coming from, but I'm going Sabalenka. So that's plus. Then also you look at potential defeats en route. Could Krejcikova on any given day beat one or two of these players that we're mentioning? I think she could. She can.
Yeah,
I'm just laughing because I thought that this was the first slam this year where you're not picking Barbora Krejcikova, and then you come in with this.
And I blow it. I blow it with 2 minutes to go. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But I mean, who else? I mean, like Ostapenko and the number 7 seed who won Wimbledon recently, Vondrousova. Yeah.
Who's not? Well, she's 7 on my power ranking. She's
That's
the 9th
9,
seed.
right? Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay,
9,
yeah. Sorry, there you go, Nick. You've really taken over my mental thought process now because I put it seeding 7. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, and Pegula as well, of course. It's just so many there. Whereas, I think all of those could be, Iga Swiatek or Sabalenka. I don't think those equivalents on the men's side are beating, or at least there's not a strong argument to suggest that they can beat Alcaraz or Djokovic right now. So I know what you mean, that there's probably only a strong argument for, say, 4 players. I still think Pegula is a stretch on the women's side. If somebody was on this show right now saying they predict Pegula to win the US Open, I think that there's a lot of evidence that suggests she won't. Whereas on the men's side, again, the Casper Ruud is the 5th seed, for example. Holger Rune. Pardon?
What about on the men's side? Yannick Sinner.
Yeah, that would be your number 4. That's my 4 in my power rankings. Yeah.
Nick, next time you should just do the full 32 seeds power rankings and then send it to the US Open before they reveal the draw, and they can just swap things around, because clearly they are better than the usual seedings.
Nick, by the way, didn't even have Krejcikova amongst his honorable mentions.
Oh, I didn't see the honorable mentions, but I get that. She has been woeful, yeah. So
she's not in form. I mean, to be honest, my long list was much shorter than it usually is. I got it down to like 22 names. I was like, right, got to get 10 from here, and then it ended up being 8. I got it to 8. Like the top 8 were like, okay, those are obvious.
But you gave an honorable mention to Venus Williams, which was obviously a.
That was more of a watch her first round match.
I know.
She's going to win the title.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, there was a few in there. I mean, if you were to ask Jack Edward, he'd probably give Miran Draver a genuine honourable mention.
At the French, I did. I was pretty certain that she was going to beat Goff in the 3rd round. Obviously, that did not pan out after winning the first set. I'm not as confident here.
No.
Okay, well, I think that's a nice way to end it. I think we've thoroughly covered the men's and the women's, but I'm sure there's still lots more to take. So if you are watching retrospectively, get in the comment section below, particularly if you have a case for Pegula, for example, or even Krejcikova winning the US Open. I would love to hear it. And on the men's side, yes, if you think Gael Monfils is going all the way, I would be particularly keen to hear that argument too. Nick, thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. I've missed this, and it's good to be back.
Cool. And Damien as well, good to have you back, and I'm sure we'll be crossing paths again very, very soon. So, on that note, everybody, we know the drill. Have a good one, and see you soon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.